Good evening, everybody. I apologize that this will not be as a normal Landfall hour. It doesn't have the slides and everything like that. I redid that format, so it takes me a little while longer to get everything in. However, we'll use the web browser and we'll look at essentially the exact same information that I would be looking at for that. I think I finally found that happy median of not putting too much information in it, because some of the feedback I got on Landfall Hour, they're like, bro, this is too much for a pregame show. And I'm like, you know what? You got a point. So I wanted to go to something a little bit more condensed, kind of like what I do for Damage Report, which will be streamed tonight, because I actually, for once, don't have to work this weekend. That is why I took the opportunity today to enjoy NASCAR 25. I'm going to try and stream that a little bit on my other channel. I don't want to do it too much, though, just because, you know, it's like I need to have something that doesn't involve editing videos and being on the internet constantly. So some of my races I'll post up on there, but I had a lot of fun playing that today. And, you know, I actually got to like not do work related things for a little while, because I do kind of see this as work in a way. That's why I'm not as quick to get on X and get into arguments like I used to. That aside, let me get this controller here out of the way before I accidentally... By the way, if you guys are looking for a good PC gaming controller and it works on the Xbox as well, Thrustmaster eSwap, this thing is awesome. When the analog sticks start to go dead in it, you can order new ones and just flip them out like that. And the cool thing about it is the D-pad does the same thing where it comes out. So like if you prefer having like, oh, dropped it. If you prefer having the D-pad over here and having the stick over, or whatever you want to do, however they do it with the Xbox and everything like that, because I like having the sticks in the middle because I grew up playing PlayStation, so I like the analog sticks being in the middle, but you can configure it however you want. It's a really awesome controller. I use it typically to play the old Star Wars Battlefront games. Most of the games I play are old. NASCAR 25 is the first new game I bought in about 6 or 7 years. The last new game I got, I think, was either Ace Combat 7 or Red Dead Redemption 2. I can't remember which one I got first. Whichever one came out first is the one I got first, because I got Ace Combat 7 like immediately upon release. So, as you guys know, I'm quite the airplane nerd. So I'm going to get into some of the comments here. What's good? Hey, Daniel. What's up, buddy? Well, expecting to see a more mature bounce back game from the Hurricanes. Yeah, they're going to be fine. That just... The only thing that bothered me the other night, I knew they were tired. I knew they were fatigued. They've got a tough schedule. I just didn't feel like that they were fighting for that one like they normally do when they're in those circumstances. That was just one of those nights where you're not going to have it every night. I'd rather them not have it now than not have it in April and May. So, you know, you're going to have games like that where you just kind of, you know, it's a stinker. It just didn't go well. That's totally fine. Those are going to happen. So it's like, what else can you do? So it's put that one in the rearview mirror. It's not one of those games that, like, there's a lot of different types of losses. There are some losses that you need to go to the video room and dissect every little thing you can. The one in Utah last season where they had 10 minutes plus of power play time, a good chunk of that being 5-on-3 in the last 10 minutes of the game, they essentially had the officials on their side for once, and they didn't get a single goal out of it against a team that was not as good then as it is now. That's unacceptable. That's one of those games that you pick apart and you dissect and go, okay, here's what you did wrong every, like, frame by frame. The last game that Carolina played, that's not one of those games where you need, against Washington, where you need to dissect it. You didn't have a good night. Washington did have a good night. And some of the same problems are still plaguing you. If you're going to look at anything, look at the power play. But then again, it might just be best if they just stop thinking about the power play at this point and put the 5-on-5 lines out there, as I alluded to in one of my other posts. So we'll see how they do with that. Raleigh98, what's up, buddy? Woo, excited for the stream. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. First goal predictions, anyone? KK. Daniel says, Will Parks agreed. Definitely need to take advantage of the next 2 home games. Yeah, there's no reason they can't win both of these. At least win one of them and get a point in the other one. If they walk out of this weekend with 3 points, I'm happy. Will says, sup, dude? Good to see you, pal. Daniel says, would you ever do a stream reviewing past playoff series from 2009, 2019, 25, and why we lost and why we were missing, etc.? Just an idea I had. Would love to hear your analytical perspective. So I actually have notes to do something like that I was going to do during the off season. That was more so of a time constraint thing, because those streams would be about an hour a piece, and I wanted to put slides together for them and all that type of stuff. I know you guys have enjoyed the goal breakdowns and everything. I don't know if I'm going to be able to keep doing that, because the last 2 times I've done it, I've had videos get blocked, one of them actively live. When I've used NHL footage in pre-recorded videos, it hasn't been a problem. It's just a regular old copyright claim, which means I can't monetize the video, and I have no problem with that, especially considering I'm not monetized yet anyway. I'm getting close to where I can. But the thing about it is like, I don't know why it's killing those midstream, knowing that I'm not going to make any money off of it. And the game that I'm showing them from is already over. Maybe I'm doing it too close to the end of the game. Maybe I need to wait until like the next day, try that on like a couple of days later or something like that. But it's absolutely ridiculous that I can't do that. But you know, a lot of the brain trust of the NHL is in the fucking Stone Ages when it comes to this stuff. And then the ones that aren't in the Stone Ages, we got the least evolved people in the history of humanity running the Nashville Predators social media account, thinking that skate blades are razor sharp. That shit still pisses me off to this day. I'm really glad I ratioed them. Goss Bear is better than Shea. Hey, Frank. Will Parks, that's a nice idea. Yeah, I can do that. What I'll do is I'm going to put all those together. I'll put notes together for each one of them. And then I think I'll go on X and like put out a poll and ask people which one they want to see next. But yeah, I've been planning on doing something like that. It's just, if I don't have the time to invest in doing something, I just don't do it because I want some sort of quality to it. It's just, I got some good feedback on the less formal streams that I've been doing without the slides and everything. And I love having the slides, but I can go over the same information in the browser. It's just not the same. But there is something I'm going to talk about when we get to the NHL Edge data that's going to make it a little bit easier for me to do, you know, Landfall Hour going forward and everything like that. Additionally, my school schedule will be a little bit more friendly because right now I have evening classes a couple of days out of the week, and that kind of throws everything off for me. And I've got a 3-hour break between that evening class and the class that I have in the morning. It just kind of fucks up my whole week. Whereas now, when this semester is over and I start my next one, all my classes are in the morning. So me being able to do Landfall Hour and then do Damage Report like night of or day after or something like that, it's not going to be too terribly hard. And I've got a laptop now, so that way I can actually like work on these things a little bit more around the clock. So that's not going to be a problem. Here we go with this bullshit again. God damn it. Trade away Sean Walker for Nikita Zadorov. We already have a Nikita Zadorov who is better than Nikita Zadorov. Like, Nikita Zadorov is the great value version of himself. We already have one. A much better one. Will Parks, thanks. Don't remind me of the 7 to 9 minute power play. Yeah, dude, I don't know if you watched the damage report that I did after that game. I'll find the link to it and I'll DM it to you. I excoriated that fucking team. I was so pissed at them. I was like, how do you should have accidentally scored a goal. It's like the part in the Starship Troopers where Neil Patrick Harris is talking to Denise Richards and the other guy, I forget his name, that Casper Van Diem, like he's like showing the playing cards behind their head, and he said you should have accidentally got one right by now. That's what went on with that power play, and that's one of the things I want to see tonight. If Carolina can at least have, because it's at the point where it's a lot of times the problem with the power play, they do it right, they get good chances, and they just don't score. Lately, they're not doing it right. Lately, it's just not clicking at all. It's not even generating really good chances, and it's not deliberately generating good quality chances. So it's kind of like that. Bring him. What's up, dude? Jack Hughes injured his hand at a team dinner and is out a few weeks. Yeah, I saw that. It kind of reminded me of Victor Rask. Hopefully he didn't slice a ligament or a tendon or something like that. Otherwise, he might be out for a little while like Charles Alexis Legault is. But yeah, that's unfortunate for him. I mean, I'm no fan of the Hughes sisters by any means, but I don't want them to get hit with sharp objects and get injured. Like, I don't like Jack Hughes at all. Like, it's like, it's funny. It's like, you know how like you get something from your parents, right? Like, I got my love of hockey from my dad, and he really hates Sidney Crosby, like, to this day. Like, I hated him before, and now I don't hate him so much. It's kind of tapered off. And now I'm carrying that torch of hating Jack Hughes, and I will probably hate Jack Hughes in ways that will never, ever diminish. My dad still has that same hatred for Sidney Crosby, even though he's not doing all the diving and all the stuff he was doing before, but he can't let that go. When it comes to Jack Hughes, I think that's who I'm going to be. I'm going to be the old man sitting on my lawn telling kids to get off my lawn and that Jack Hughes sucks, after my dad is gone. So I think that's kind of like what that dynamic is. Like, my dad hated Jeff Gordon in NASCAR. I hated Jeff Gordon because my dad hated Jeff Gordon. And now I don't hate him so much. I actually would rather have him back in the sport than a lot of these weirdos they have now. Baseball, it's like we both hated the Mets. I still don't like the Mets, but I don't hate them that bad. My dad still probably hates them. We're united in our hatred of the Phillies, though. Fuck them. But the funny thing about it is I actually hate the Devils a little bit more than my dad does. And I don't hate them. It's more of a like, haha, funny rivalry thing, because y'all have seen me and my buddy JJ. We're really good friends. It's more so the fact that when my dad started watching hockey, the Hurricanes didn't exist yet. They were still in Hartford, and he actually liked the Devils first because there was a lot of visibility on them. Don't hold that against him. There was a lot of visibility on them because of, the Martin Brodeur, Scott Stevens era and everything like that. So he actually, that was the first team he kind of dedicatedly watched until the Central Hockey League, which is now defunct, put a team in Fayetteville. In that same year, the Hurricanes moved from Hartford. So, and then it's like my dad also grew up liking the Cowboys. I don't like the Cowboys. I'm 110% a Panthers fan, and my dad kind of likes both of them. So a little bit about me. The Hughes sisters. Yeah. I hate them, but I don't want anything bad to happen to them. And it's not even so much them that I hate. It's all their following is, they'll call you weird, but I've elaborated before on some of the stuff those people do. They need help. Fuck Juan Soto. I can agree with that one. I will never agree. I won't say never, but I don't agree with you on the whole trade Sean Walker bit. But the fuck Juan Soto thing, I'm good with that. I've never had a reason to like him because he played for the Nats before. So it's like, and same division. They used to absolutely whip the Braves' ass every time. All right, let's get into this here. And move that there. And all right. So one of the first things we're going to talk about here, this is kind of what I expected in regards to Jacob Slavin. They're taking their time with him, and there's no need to rush him back. A few years ago, you might be in a worse spot if you don't have Jacob Slavin. The team is deep enough now to where you can afford for him to miss large periods of the time. I would be more worried about Aho being out than Slavin because of how deep Carolina's defense is proportionately compared to the forwards. But Eric Tulsky with Scott Larkin and Gord Stellick on Sirius XM NHL says Canes are being conservative with Slavin's rehab and that he's making progress, does not want Slavin to take a step back. So important things to remember about that. I'm imagining, even though nothing's really been said about it, that the knee has, it just wasn't 100%. And I saw some people asking some stuff about, or saying, commenting, and it wasn't anything malicious or anything, about why did they even bother bringing him back for the first two games and everything like that. If it's anything like the knee injury I had, because knees are weird, there will be times where it feels totally fine. You feel like you can go to the Olympics and do the high jump, and then there's other times where you don't feel like you have a knee at all, and there's no pain, and it just feels like it's not there. That's the scary part about it. I didn't get worried about my knee until I couldn't feel it anymore. So what I'm imagining that he has is maybe some sort of patella displacement, which is what I had, and it causes you pain, but it's nothing that needs to be repaired surgically. That's one of those things that the best thing that heals it is time. So in my case, I took 2 years off from playing anyway, just because I was busy with other stuff, and I rehabbed my knee. I'm imagining that maybe he has a similar situation where essentially the short way of saying it is, I'm not saying that this is what's going on with Slavin, but what I'm saying is if you have an injury that is similar to that, where the patella, the kneecap is just kind of off center, surgery doesn't need to be done to fix it, which is a good thing. You always want to avoid surgery if you can, but it is a lot of rehab. It's a lot of, in my case, I did a lot of isolated squats, single leg deadlifts, and all kinds of stuff. And, doing rehab was worse than actually working out because you're concentrating on that one particular thing, and an hour of doing that, it sucks. But he's in really good shape. Obviously, he's in the NHL. He takes care of himself. We all know that he doesn't drink or anything like that. So the time for him to come back, and I've said this before, I would rather the Canes going in wild card 2 and have Jacob Slavin healthy, 100% ready for the playoffs, than I would them get the President's Trophy and him miss a single game. I legitimately feel that way about it. So that's where his value intensifies even more. As we saw, we as Canes fans know how valuable Jacob Slavin is. the rest of the world didn't know that until Four Nations, and then there were still idiots out there saying that it was recency bias and people mispronouncing Gustav Forsling's name were trying to say that he was better than him, which is funny. But let him take his time. Team's deep enough, top to bottom. If he's not back before, if he sits until the Olympic breaks, plays the Olympics, and then comes in, I'm totally fine with that too. If he plays the Olympics and then has to go back out for a little while and then comes back in for the playoffs, I'm good with that too. 100% healthy Jacob Slavin is 20 times more valuable in the playoffs than he is in the regular season. So we're going to go over here and start looking at some of the stats here. So Canes and Canucks at 7. Quinn Hughes, from last I saw, I'm going to look at the updated game day tweets here to make sure. Quinn Hughes is out tonight, so I guess it's just a bad day to be named Hughes, like every day that ends in Y. Nikolai Ehlers is on a hot streak. He's got 6 points in his last 5 games right now. So the guy was playing well the entire time, but now the offense is actually coming. We're going to take a little bit of a closer look at his numbers at one point here. Seth Jarvis, 3 goals in his last 5 games. That's about the pace you want him to stay at. And Keandre Miller has 4 assists in his last 6 games. This will be the first of 2 meetings between the Hurricanes and Canucks, and the second one will conclude the season series on March the 4th, which is around the time I'm expecting the Hurricanes to mathematically secure a playoff spot. At a minimum, it should be a foregone conclusion at that point. So goaltending, we're going to look at that separately in the NHL Edge stuff. But as it stands right now, Kochetkov and Lankinen are the expected starters, the last that I looked. Last 10 games, Carolina is 6-4-0. The Canucks are 4-5-1, so they're struggling a little bit. Now, when we go into the team stats here, Vancouver's power play is not, in the grand scheme of things, not much better than Carolina's. They're sitting at 19.3%. Carolina is sitting at a measly, pathetic, unacceptable 12.5. That's got to get fixed. I know that there's been a bunch of talk about how to fix it. Right now, throw everything at the wall and see what sticks. Me personally, I would roll the 5-on-5 lines out there, or maybe I'd have some sort of personnel change. At this point, put Robinson out there, put Martinook out there, someone who can, retrieve pucks down in the corner, something like that, just to kind of spark them and everything like that. Maybe flip Aho and Stankoven, and that's not an indictment on how either one of them have played. Just something to kind of get them going again, something to change things up. It wouldn't hurt at this point to try something like that. Maybe put Jordo out there to win a face-off, and then once you've got positive control, it's like in overtime. Jordo wins face-off, he gets off the ice, Aho comes on. Aho's been struggling in the circle a little bit lately, so maybe that's something you consider. Put Jordo out there, and he can either go in the bumper spot or he can jump off the ice, especially if you're talking about it not being especially if you're talking about the second period during the long change. Aho can be at the end of the bench ready to go. Jordo jumps off, Aho's on, go from there. The weird thing about it is Aho had a career high in faceoffs last year. I believe last year he was 55.3 or something along those lines. He'll get it back. He's just in a little bit of a rut with it. It happens to everybody. It even happened to Brendan Moore, and he's one of the greatest faceoff guys in the history of the game. Arguably, if you look at it from the time it started being tracked and how many he took compared to the 2 guys ahead of him, he might have been the best one in history. And then you also may remember Manny Malhotra, former Cane. He was really good at them as well. So it's definitely a very, very coveted skill set. I think it's a little bit overrated in this day and age, but you have to win those on special team situations, especially if you have a power play struggling as much as the Canes are. So let's go down here, look at the box score. All right, so Elias Pettersson, 18 points, 13 games. Brock Besser, 12 points in 16 games. Connor Garland, 12 points in 15 games. Kiefer Sherwood has actually been surprising a lot of people with how well he's been playing. 12 points in 18 games. Evander Kane, 9 and 8, and then everybody else has less than 8. When you go down to their defense, Quinn Hughes, not going to be there tonight. Philip Hronik, I know I give him shit sometimes because a bunch of people said that they want him to be a Hurricane, which just didn't make any sense. He's 0.50 points per game, so that's actually really good for a defenseman. Tyler Myers has 4 and 18. Pettersson has 3. And you'll notice the plus minus, which is a stat I don't weigh on a whole lot, but you'll notice a lot of their defense is either barely above on plus minus or they're below. Like I said, I don't put a lot of stock in that particular stat, but it is something noteworthy because the only time that plus minus is really, really telling is if it's inordinately low or inordinately high. And if they would change it to a 5-on-5 only stat, it would be a little bit better of a description, but they don't really do that. So I'm going to do some of the comments here, and then we will get back to this. Daniel says, similar story here. Mom is from Midwest Canada and grew up in the 80s Oilers. I didn't care for hockey growing up in NC until the 23 playoff run and gave Oilers and Canes a chance on TV. Yeah, that makes sense. Haven't looked back since. Grayson, what's up, dude? Hey, Morning Take. How's it going? It's going good, buddy. I hope you're doing good. Reese, what's up, dude? Going on deep runs destroys hockey players' bodies. If you look at Florida, they are beat up bad as a result of going all the way twice in a row, three times in a row, actually. Kane's in a similar boat going to the ECF 2 out of 3 years. Yeah, no, that's totally a thing. Because, it's like if there's one upside of getting eliminated from the playoffs early or not making the playoffs at all, it's the recovery time starts easy. That's part of the reason why I think, even though there weren't many of them, the Canes players that were there for the drought, even though some of them went to play in the World Championship and World Championships and everything like that, they had a little bit more recovery time. Now that fatigue factor on looking at it in a broader sense, looking at it long term, is starting to set in. So one other thing that I do want to highlight, last season, I want to say it was, the Ducks scratched Leo Carlson out of nowhere. It's not that he was playing poorly, but they said that he was on a plan of some sort of conditioning plan where they were going to hold him out of certain games for the sake of, longevity and everything like that. I think you're going to start seeing stuff like that more and more with an 84-game season starting next year and everything like that. I think there's going to be a lot more, teams, as they're able to, rotating their 13th forward and rotating their 7th defenseman, and just to give somebody a break and it not be injury related, especially if they're doing pretty good in the standings like Carolina is right now. So whenever Jacob Slavin is ready, make extra sure he's ready and then wait another 2 weeks. Alex Heikonen, I hope I'm saying that right. That sounds like a Finnish name to me. Welcome to the show. Start pulling the goalie and going 6-on-4. Dude, not a bad idea at this point. Throw everything at the wall and see what sticks. Cavery says, Blake, Stank, Hattie tonight. Well, I'd be all right with that, even if they combined for one or if they each had one. Reese says, this is just my opinion, but I don't think RBA knows how to coach a power play at all. Personnel has changed. The only thing that hadn't changed is the coach who's running it. Guys are never in sync for both units. That's a valid observation. Now, a lot of people, see, this is one of those things where I have to be careful with how I say something, because I don't want to get any more death threats for criticizing Brenda Moore, because if any of the people who sent me those show their face, that's going to be it for them. But the thing about it is, it's like, I pointed this out in one very particularly infamous post that pissed a lot of people off, and I actually got recognition with some of the corporate media because of it. And I highlighted the fact that some things have not changed despite personnel changes. Rod is an amazing coach, but you cannot give him credit for all the things he's done well, which far outweighs the bad, and not discuss the bad. That's what the point I was making with that one particular post. And then somebody went in there and did the well actually thing and, listed all the players that, were still there, which was 4 or 5 of them by the time that 24-25 came around. And the only ones really left from them are Martinook, Stahl, Aho, Slavin, and maybe I'm forgetting somebody from the time the drought ended. But that's the whole thing about it. It's like, you can acknowledge that he's one of the best coaches in the league, and he's definitely the best coach that this franchise has ever had. It's not even a close discussion there. But you have to admit there's certain things that just haven't gone the way that they need to. And I understand he can't jump out. Well, I mean, he can probably, as good of shape as he in. He can't jump out there and put the puck in the net for them. He can't do that. It's on the guys on the ice to execute. But as the old saying goes, heavy lies the crown. When you're in charge of something, you're in charge of something, and you have to be the one who really, really makes it happen. That's how I knew a lot of the people doing that stuff were. That's one thing. Here, I'll go off on a little bit of another personal tangent, since this is not a super formal show. One of the things that used to piss me off in the military really bad, and it was actually, I could fill up this entire notepad with reasons why I got out. One of the biggest things that pissed me off was people coming in there in the morning and briefing you on what you have to do. We have to do this. We have to do that. We have to do this. We have to do that. And we was not really part of the equation, because it was us doing it while they were sitting in the mess, drinking coffee and bitching at each other and joking and laughing about shit. Or people wanting to take all the credit when something happened and then not thanking the guys that, were subordinate to them, but then they were ready to come down on them the moment that something went wrong. So I've seen all that before. And I'm not saying that Rod is like that because he's not, but there are a lot of people online and in the media that go to bat for the guy when no one's even attacking him. And if anyone who thinks that I hadn't gone to bat for Rod, go through my posts. It's about a 26-1 ratio of how many times I've said Rod did the right thing or that Rod was being unfairly criticized or something like that, as opposed to me actually even criticizing him. I can actually list right here on this piece of paper, and it wouldn't be more than 7 or 8 things, the times that I've actually been really critical of a decision he made. So that's one of the things that annoys me about it, is a lot of people want to give him his flowers, but they don't want to say what his drawbacks are. And that's just the thing with human beings. None of us are perfect. All of us have things we're good at, and all of us have things we suck at. Me, I'm really bad at shooting a basketball. I'm horrible at it. It's comical watching me do that. It happens. So let's get back to this other stuff here. Okay, so we got that one done. We don't need that. Don't need that. All right, so lines. We'll look here. All right, so morning skate lines as of this morning. The Hurricanes had Svechnikov, Aho, Jarvis, Ehlers, Stankov, and Blake, Carrier, Stahl, Martinook, Hall, Kotkaniemi, Robinson. Good. Don't mess with those lines. I know that they were a little bit off last game, but the entire team was off that game. It's nothing really to worry about. They'll get it right. Everything will be fine. I like those forward lines a lot because you have 3 lines that give you good 200-foot games and scoring. You have a little bit of physicality mixed in there, especially in the bottom 6. You have a top 6 that can score. You have a shutdown line, and you have 3 scoring lines ultimately. So I know that Rod doesn't number the lines, as they say. That doesn't mean that certain players aren't utilizing some situations more than others. But if you're looking at an actual depth chart, like how effective each line is pound for pound when compared to the other team, Svechnikov, Aho, and Jarvis may not be as good as a lot of other teams' first lines, like the one that we're going to see tomorrow night. Ehlers, Stankov, and Blake, they can probably match up with Draisaitl's line and be okay, and maybe come out with a net positive, or at least come out neutral. Then you have Carrier, Stahl, and Martinook, who's going to go up against the McDavid line more often, so that Aho doesn't have to, for example. And then Hall, Kotkaniemi, and Robinson, that just gives you a depth scoring line, and 2 of those 3 guys throw plenty of hits. So that's a good lineup right there. And I'm really glad this is one of the things that Rod's evolved on a little bit. After a game like the one on Tuesday, a lot of times he would mix the lines up. This time he's left them alone. And that's good. Let them sort through that. It was just a bad game. There's no need to, throw them in the blender. So that's one thing that he's gotten much better at. Then when you look at the defense, Gostisbehere, Walker, that's a pair that that works from last season. Miller, Nystrom, and Nikishin Riley. Nikishin Riley, that's a good pair right there. I'm actually really happy with that, because if you want to get a glimpse, a sneak preview of what a Nikishin Slavin pair could look like, watch that one. Now we go over to the Canucks lines here. Evander Kane, Elias Pettersson, Connor Garland. That's the biggest line that you have to shut down, obviously. Pettersson's a little bit, on the slower side right now, but he's still got 13 points in 18 games. Definitely don't sleep on him on the power play. Connor Garland, little fast guy, kind of like Stankoven a little bit. Evander Kane, great net front dude, very physical player, will get under your skin and everything like that. Second line, you got a couple of offensive weapons on there, particularly with Besser and Sherwood. Reichel's good 200-foot center. You go to this is where Carolina starts to get their advantage, though, with the bottom 6: McEachran, Ratty, DeBrusk, Baines, Sasson, and Carlson. Carolina's bottom 6 should eat that bottom 6 alive. Absolutely should. And that's not just from scoring. I'm talking hitting, speed, everything like that. Carolina's bottom 6 should eat their bottom 6 alive. You go into defense, Marcus Pettersson, Tyler Myers. How many Petterssons did Jesus Christ. I forgot the name of the other one. Willander, Joseph Hronik. So, again, Carolina, even without Slavin, even without Chatfield, should have a pretty definitive advantage there with the Vancouver against the Vancouver Canucks defense. And now we're going to talk about the goalies real quick. Why is Bussy up here? I did not type him in. Oh, okay. I didn't do the comparison thing yet. Never mind. I'll fix that. Okay, so we got Kochek. Why are you not? I guess I got to type in the first name. Oh, I'm in skaters. Sorry, I'm stupid. There we go. And then Kevin Lincoln. All right, so let's see what else we got here. All right, so going into the goalies here. Kochekov missed a good chunk of the season with the injury at the beginning and everything like that, but when he's been in, he's been pretty solid. 3 games played, won 2 of them. One of them he came. One of those games played was, of course, when he came in relief on Tuesday night. 1.47 goals against average, 938 save percentage. His second start, I believe it was. Kochekov actually really impressed me that he didn't face a ton of shots and still got the job done. Kevin Lankinen, 9 games played, 3 wins, 5 losses, and 1 overtime loss. 3.57 goals against average and 885 save percentage. Carolina should even. This is a good night to get the power play back on track against a goalie that's got those kind of numbers. This is a good night to remember how to do it. Save/save percentage. This isn't going to be super telling for Kochekov since he's only played 2 games and part of a third. But to nobody's surprise, high danger saves 1,000%. He's only given them up in the mid-range, and he's given them up all essentially from lower danger or medium danger spots where typically goalies save them more often than Kochekov does there, but then everything that's high danger, everything that requires a highlight reel save, he gets it done. We just need to convince Kochekov that every single goalie in the league is Russian, which honestly kind of ain't far from the truth sometimes. Lankinen's giving them up from everywhere. You'll notice right around in here, though, high slot in between the dots, low slot right between the circles, and right there on the doorstep, he's given up a lot. So that's where you want to try and get to him at. Shoot from anywhere in the funnel right there. You know, the home plate trapezoid type shape that they show on, overlays of the offensive zone to show where to shoot from and everything like that. That's where you get inside the dots, get to the interior, get to the middle of the ice, fire everything at the sky. Shouldn't be a problem. But knowing the Canes, they tend to turn guys like Kevin Lankinen into Marty Turco. So we'll look at goals against. We don't really need to look at shots against. So all locations, Kochekov, like I said, giving him up from more medium dangers areas. Lankinen's tending to, he's normal. He's giving him up a little bit more on the doorstep in the high slot area and everything like that. So that's where you want to look to, stay, work to the interior, like I was saying, to get shots on him. 5-on-5 save percentage, 912 and 914, so they're pretty close there. In close situations, 1.00 to 9.20, but again, Kochekov, small sample size, 5-on-5 shots against. He hasn't seen a whole, for 2 games total, Kochekov hasn't seen a whole lot of shots against with at 5-on-5, but that's to be expected with the Hurricanes. 5-on-5 shots against per 60, 30.06 against Lankinen. So Vancouver will give up shots. Make the most of what you get. And then we don't need to look at that one. Let's go back over to the complete edge stats here. So Carolina, 16, 11, 5, no overtime losses, total of 22 points. Canucks, 17 points in 18 games, 8 wins, 9 losses, 1 overtime loss. They're going to be looking to turn it around tonight. Shot speeds, we won't worry too much about that. Skating speed. This is one of the few times that the other team is on average collectively faster than the Hurricanes. That's not normal. So this is going to be interesting in that regard. And 0.3 of a mile an hour is a big difference when you're talking about on ice. Now, the only reason they're ahead like that is they have more 18 to 20 mile an hour bursts to go into that average. Hurricanes have 24, 22 plus mile per hour bursts, 369, 20 to 22 mile per hour bursts, and the rest of them are 18 to 20. When you go over to the Canucks, there's a little bit of a discrepancy there, discrepancy compared to Carolina. 17, 22 mile an hour burst, 357, 20 to 22 mile per hour bursts. So as far as the team that can accelerate faster, as far as the edge data goes, that's Carolina. When compared to the Canucks, they have a higher average speed at a average to normal game pace, as opposed to when Carolina's playing at an above average pace. Distance covered, I never really cared much for that one. Zone map, though, I really like this one. Carolina, again, the team that shoots from everywhere. Vancouver has actually managed to generate a decent amount of high danger chances. And the reason that they're good at that primarily is because of their top 6, who we were talking about with Reichel, Pettersson, Besser, Garland, Kane. Guys like that really thrive in the offensive zone. They don't need a whole lot of time to hurt you. So the less Carolina can stay in the offensive or stay in their defensive zone tonight, the better, because the Canucks do have a plethora of weapons. They're not very effective in the other 2/3 of the ice, but in the offensive zone, if you give them time and space, they will hurt you. seems to be a thing when Carolina plays against most of the teams in this league that have kind of geared their team to be a little bit more offensively focused and to make the most of creating quality chances and scoring on them in the offensive zone, whereas Carolina, as you can see here, goes for more of a volume shooting, high frequency, high speed type of offense, as opposed to a run and gun, get a good shot on net, get a quality shot on net type of thing like the Canucks do here. Goals, where they're scoring from, Carolina's getting them from everywhere. There are certain spots on the ice where the Vancouver Canucks have not yet scored a goal. In front of the net. Don't worry about below the goal line. Those things are so infrequent they shouldn't even be talked about. But as you can see, Carolina's scoring a lot more from those locations than the Canucks are. They don't shoot from the point very much. They like to work to the interior. You keep them on the perimeter, they won't get those chances that they like. Shooting percentages, again, just kind of an illustration of how often they shoot it from somewhere and it goes in. Carolina's getting chances at a higher volume, at a higher rate from many more locations on the ice than the Canucks are. So I'm really happy they added some color to the NHL edge, because last year it looked like some shit out of 1984. It was just so bland. All right, zone time here. Of course, Carolina, 45.4% in the offensive zone, well above a little bit above the NHL average, above average in the neutral zone, above average in the defensive zone as far as, or it would be below average in the defensive zone as far as exiting and everything like that. Shot attempts, plus 6.6 average for Carolina, plus 0.8 shot on goal differential. So, again, things to take advantage of there with the volume shooting. Minus 2.6 for the Canucks, plus 0.1 for them. They spend 41% of their time in the offensive zone, which is just below the NHL average. 16.7 in the neutral zone, which is, again, just below the NHL average by 1%. And then the defensive zone, 42.3, a little bit above average. But for volume shooting, take what you can get, and you'll get as much as you can out of that and everything. So let's see what all have I not covered here yet. Don't need that, don't need that, don't need that. Let's look at this. All right. Regular season 5-on-5 numbers. All right, so Hurricanes are on the top row. Canucks are on the bottom. Not even close in possession metrics, not in the slightest. They're literally more than 10 points apart on Corsi and Fenwick. And let's look at expected goals here. Carolina's got a decent edge there. High danger chances, Carolina's got an edge there as well. Now, what I want to look at here, 5-on-4 power play. Let's look at that. Yeah, of course, the other team has more power play time than the Hurricanes because obvious reasons. Of course, we didn't want to look at there, but what we do want to look at is expected goals for. Carolina has 12.37 expected goals for. That's actually pretty low for them at this point in the season on the power play. And then you go back to actual goals scored, or go over to actual goals scored, and they've only got 6. That's got to get fixed. Then when you look at expected goals for the Canucks, 14.84 compared to 11 actual goals scored. So those are numbers that at least need to be close for a power play to be effective, expected goals versus actual goals. So neither one of these teams are scoring above expected, but the Canucks are a lot closer to that than the Hurricanes are. The Hurricanes don't need to score above expected on the power play. It needs to be close, though. It needs to be within a percentage. So if they have 12.37 expected goals for, you would hope that they would have at least 11 or 12 actual goals to show for it. And right now, that's just not happening. Chance generation. High danger chances for, they've produced 41 of them. And let's look at the rates instead. We'll go to per 60 for a little bit here. .218 high danger chances for per 60, and they've only scored 6 goals. That's got to get fixed. So that's about all I have for those. Let me flip back over to this here. Remove that. And there we go. All righty. Go back through some of the comments here and everything like that. And we'll talk about some more stuff. Grayson says, I just got off school just 6 minutes ago in Florida, but decided to join the stream real quick because I love your stream. Warning take, go Canes. Thank you, buddy. I appreciate it. All of you, I appreciate you. Daniel says, I would disagree just due to the PP being a top 3-5 power play in the league the last couple of times recently. I think it's the players overcomplicating, looking for the perfect opportunity. Valid as well. I think it's a little bit of both. And I think that they've had this on and off issue with the power play so much that when it does happen, it snowballs and it kind of gets in their head. We'll see. We'll see what happens. But I mean, like I said, if I had a pie chart to put in front of me, things Rod has done right as a coach versus things Rod could have done better as a coach, it's like 95% good. And then the rest of it is like just things that just straight up didn't work out very well. It's not like he's making decisions in bad faith, like, oh, this is a horrible idea, let's do it. That's not what he's saying. But what I have an issue with is people who constantly nonstop blame the players as if they want this same result as well. That's where I have an issue. So they'll get it figured out. Rod's a good coach. Canes have good players that will get figured out. Yeah, they do have to execute. It's on them at the end of the day to actually execute. Like I said, Rod can't go out there and put the puck in the net for them. Like, he could still play, but then you get a penalty for the coach going out there, and it's just a whole mess. Reese says, looking for a big bounce back game for Miller. Need him to improve his decision making and processing. Looked very poor last game against Washington. Hope Gleason can iron that out over time. Yeah, that was Miller's worst game so far. I don't think he's going to have another one like that. I think he's going to be fine. Speaking of that, I'm going to post his. I've got the highlights clipped of it. I'm just editing them right now. You know how a lot of times when someone plays their first game as a Hurricane, I'm like highlight package it and throw it in. Keys, I'm through editing the second period. I'm going to try and get the third period done during the intermissions tonight, but that one's almost done. I'll be posting that here soon. Levy Lateau, long time no see, brother. How are you? What's up, man? I haven't caught one of these lives for a while. Team's looking good, though, except for the Caps and Bruins games where they just look tired. Yeah, you're going to have bad games. That just happened to be there, too. It just happened to be against teams that I hate. But Dylan says, I'm not ready to give up on Cooch like everyone else. Yeah, I'm not giving up on him yet, but, like, a lot of people were ready to, send him to China and sign Bussy long term. And I'm like, let's pump the brakes. There's not been that big of a sample size of Bussy to do that, because you might regret that decision really, really quick. Like I said, the Hurricanes have more goaltending depth now than they've had in a long time. That can go away real quick, as we saw at the point in time where I believe it was Ward, Peters, Boucher, and several other goalies were in the pipeline, so much so that Frederik Andersen, who was initially drafted by the Hurricanes, re-entered the draft because he saw no path forward. And then we know what happened to the Hurricanes goaltending situation after that. It went totally to hell. So anyone who's saying to just send Cooch to China and sign Bussy long-term, pump the brakes, calm down. Let's see what we really have here, because we don't know for sure yet. Cooch is elite when he wants to be. Yeah, that's the thing. It's all up here with him. He's just got to get past the mental game. If he gets past the mental aspect, he'll be fine. Got to get that focus locked in. Yeah, that's one of those things that I was telling somebody in game 4 of the playoffs when he had to go in last year against the Devils. I was like, this is actually the perfect situation for Kochetkov to go in, because he hadn't had all day to think about it. It's like when he's in the starter's crease, he sits there, or like, this isn't like literal what I mean here, but I think he sits there all day and he's like, stay in fucking net, do fucking job, stay in fucking net, do fucking job. And then he's doing that all fucking day. And then he gets to the game and he's like, oh shit. Like, he psychs himself out a little bit. Whereas in game 4 against the Devils, he played really well because he didn't have time to think about it. He just jumped right in and had to get to it. That's what I think. I think that, he needs to find something else to do during the day just to kind of calm his, whatever his routine is. Like, I'm no goaltending expert by any means, but that's just what I observe with Kochetkov is he thinks too much. And my favorite movie, If You Think, You're Dead. That's Kochetkov. So, well, yeah, Miller could have been better, but then again, majority of the Canes could have been better last game. Everybody sucked last game. The only people I thought played, I don't think anyone played well. The only person I thought played good, or the people I thought played okay, I should say, or didn't look totally out of place, Svechnikov, Robinson, and that's it. That's it. That's the list. That's the only 2 guys that I felt like did not look just like they were having some weird out-of-body experience of not being their normal selves that night. JW, what's up, dude? A lot of the power play struggles have been bad face-off losses, sloppy zone entries when we set up and aren't throwing blind passes in the middle of the ice, chance creation hitting bad. Yeah, the funny thing about it is Carolina was having trouble entering the zone last year at times, and one of the things that was weird about it to me, or one of the things that I found found something really funny about it, was they would kind of like have to, at least someone would have to force them to not enter the zone. Now it's like kind of like unforced errors. It's like they make it 2 or 3 feet inside the zone. Aho and Jarvis play catch on entry with it, and they're doing really well at that part. Then once they cross the blue line, they just totally like they fumble it. They play hot potato with the puck too much, and that gives the other team a perfect opportunity to step up and clear the zone and everything like that. So I think that, you know, they've got the foundation there for something good with the entries. Stankoven is really good at the entries. Ehlers, that's the biggest reason that he was brought to Carolina. Yeah, there's points there, there's goals, there's assists, but the biggest reason Nikolai Ehlers was brought to Carolina was to bring the puck in onside and cleanly, and he's doing that. Like, his entire job in life is to generate clean entries and create offense that way, and he has been doing that. So Dylan says, Bussy is still improving, and we know how good PK can be, and he's still young. Also, Freddie, how much longer does he actually have? Okay, say we trade him and Freddie retires, and we better hope Bussy is him. Yeah, that's the point. That you basically, like, you took the words right out of my mouth from what I was saying before. Like, we got to pump the brakes on this because, you know, could Freddie play longer? Yes. If he wants to sign for another year, as it stands right now, I've got zero problem with that. But at some point or another, Freddie Anderson is not going to be viable to be an option to play. That could be the end of this season, could be the end of next season. Who knows? Whatever it is, it's in the grand scheme of things, it is relatively imminent. 2 to 3 years, probably. You don't have enough sample size of Bussy to definitively say that he's better than Kochekov or that he even has a future in the system. And I like what I've seen out of Bussy, but you can't just up and do that. Like, you're setting yourself up for failure if you do that. Like, so Kochekov, yeah, he's got his issues, but you can't just go around and pull somebody off the street who's more qualified to do Kochekov's job than Kochekov is. Otherwise, they'd already be in the league. That's the thing. Also, since we normally don't let other teams get a lot of shots off PK, even more time to wait and think about it. Yeah, and that was the thing in the first game that he played. He faced a lot of shots, or I want to say it was the second one. Either way, Kochekov is like a kid with severe ADHD who just downed a bowl of white sugar or a gallon of Kool-Aid comprised 50% of pure white cane sugar. And he's all over the fucking place. Pew, 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 pew. He just doesn't stop. He's like in Star Wars when, you know, Han tried to shoot the door and the fucking blaster bolt went all the way around the trash compactor. That's Kochekov's brain at times when he's playing. That's a lot less to figure out with him than with a lot of other 26-year-old guys that are between the pipes. So giving up on him, it's one, it's just not really logical, and two, it's not logistically feasible to give up on him and expect to maintain any goaltending depth. So it's just kind of the situation the Canes in are right now. Not most other teams have somewhat of a similar. There are very few teams in this league who have a legitimate, honest to God, solid goaltending situation. Or if you look at, say, the Winnipeg Jets, Connor Hellebuck is one of the best goalies in the league. He can't get it together in the playoffs. No reason to get rid of him. Sergei Bobrovsky, like everyone said, he was done, and now he's got back-to-back cups, and he's the biggest reason by a mile why Carolina didn't go to the finals in 22-23. Because you take him out of that equation, Florida gets stomped. They're probably out in 5. Goalies can come alive like that. So there's also that to consider. It will get sorted out, whatever it is, hopefully. Caver says, I do believe the power play is a player issue. Last year in the playoffs, our power play was great, so I don't know what's going on with it. I don't even know what to solve with it at this point. Like I was saying at the beginning of the show, I don't know if you were here. Put Robinson and Stahl out there if you have to. Just change something just to see what fits. Or throw it at the wall, see if it sticks. Levy says, honestly, tell me a single goalie 26 or under who is definitely better than Kochekov. There isn't one. Right now, one that is definitively far and away better than him, I can't think of one. I really can't. Young keepers are always inconsistent, and his highs are incredible. Goalies' best years are later than for others. That's true. Most goalies really, truly blossom around 28, 29 years old. That's why UC Soros has a contract that goes until he's 38 years old after learning from Pekka Rinne. Hi, all. Just like Bond says, thank you. I appreciate it. Also, I will always wonder what Nikishin on PP1 would look like. Ghost obviously has a track record and experience, but that slapper and shoot first mentality feels needed right now. Levy says, when Kochekov is on his game, he looks like Prime Hasek. What is to say? It's not pretty. He makes me stressed. Where's his stick? I think I've only seen him drop his stick once this year, and he had to do it in that situation. And he also strategically did so by making sure it was parallel with the goal line when he dropped it. So good on him. He did that shit on purpose. Spencer Knight. I thought Spencer Knight was 27. Hold on. I could have swore he was. Oh, damn. He's only 24. Why did I think he was older than that? Oh, okay. All right. Valid. Igor, according to everyone in media, is the best goalie today. Even he isn't perfect and can't completely save the Rangers. Yeah, that's true. It's like a good goalie can only bail out a bad team so much. But then there's also well, I don't want to say Florida's a bad team, but like I said, if you take Bobrovsky out of the equation, 22-23, Florida gets stomped in that series. They get absolutely destroyed. Dustin Wolf, yeah, that's another one. He's just not got a good team in front of him. Is all there is with that. All right, everybody. I'm going to wrap up here and get ready for the game. I'm going to take my dog for a walk. Hey, Frank, you want to go for a walk? You want to go for a walk? You want a treat? I'll give you a treat if the audience says you can have a treat. You want a treat? Come here, buddy. That's it. Okay. You can thank Daniel for this treat. He replied first that you can have a treat. You ready? Spin. Good boy. Do it again. Spin. 3, 2, 1, shark. Sorry, pal. That kind of went everywhere. Good boy. Go lay down. We'll go out in a little bit. Go lay down. Oh, you left some of it over here. You're a good boy. Alrighty. Now we got that taken care of. I'll get to these last comments here. Daniel says Shesterkin and Swayman are prime examples of having a bad defense in front of them right now. Yeah, and Swayman's not someone I'm opposed to Carolina looking at. I just whenever I try to analyze goalies, I don't feel like I'm very good at it, so I kind of outsource that. I go talk to my friend Steve, or I go talk to my very good friend AB, and ask them what they think about stuff, because both of them played goalie. My friend Brett, he played goalie. So it's like they have an understanding of it that I just can't begin to fathom. So I actually had goalie gear for a little bit back in 2015, I want to say it was. And I was getting ready to go overseas, and I just decided, I'm like, you know what, I'll just get new goalie gear when I get back. So I sold it to a friend of mine and made some of the money back that I spent on it. I'm like, when I get back, I'll just get all new stuff. Because I didn't like a lot of the gear I had. I just got a bunch of secondhand stuff. But I was just kind of like, I wanted to try it, and I tried it a little bit. I played it for a couple of weeks, and I actually really enjoyed it. It's not any, it's like I wouldn't give up, skating out to play goalie. But like if I just did it at like a camp so kids could, have someone to shoot pucks at, I would do that. I had these really old school Brian pads. I had the weirdest looking Reebok chest protector. It must have been 10 years old when I got it and been used quite a bit. The CCM skates I had were a size and a half too big for the goalie skates. I had an NME3 mask, and I was like, all right, this is probably not the best mask for me to play with, so I wanted to get a better one. I don't remember the glove and blocker that I had. I believe that both of those were, because back then I was a Bauer supremacist. Both of those were Bauer. And, see, that was my other thing. I wanted to come back and buy all Bauer goalie gear, whereas now if I get goalie gear, I don't really care where it comes from, but I really like the true goalie gear because they bought Lefevre, which used to be its own thing before CCM got it, and I like their gear a lot. And I'm actually going to like document that. Like I'm going to do like a video, like a series of videos about me, like learning how to play goalie and everything like that, because I actually really want to learn how to do it. That's a while off though. That's why I got to save the money up for the gear, because I want to get really good stuff so that way it has a decent shelf life if I decide I want to turn around and sell it. But that aside, like, I've actually, since I've skated out, I feel like I have a better understanding of that. And anyone, it's like you can go play like beer league and get a better understanding of the game. It's better. It's a better understanding of it than someone who's never played before, in my opinion. Um, as far as like analyzing goalies, I don't feel like I'm amazing at it. So that's why I outsource that to other people. I think I'm good at analyzing defensemen in particular. I'm good at analyzing the forwards to some extent, especially two-way centers. I feel like I understand their game a little bit. Offense first wingers, I feel like I'm kind of good at analyzing the numbers. I think I'm good at that. But like as far as goalies go, if I have one weakness other than losing my temper, which I don't do as much as I used to, if I have one weakness when it comes to this channel, is there's been times I've tried to make videos analyzing goalies and I just totally mess it up. I have to I would love to sit down with Trip Tracy for like an hour and have him explain to me how do I analyze goalies, because he's a goalie, so he knows. And then I would like to come up with a workout plan by sitting down with Rod. So, but yeah, I'm goalies. It's one of those things where I don't comment on it very much because I'm not good at it. Swayman. Yeah, no, I knew what you meant. You'd rather have Knight over PK. Yeah, I mean, I suppose. I mean, I've seen Spencer Knight play some, not enough to definitively say that I would do that. Spencer Knight definitely seems like a more consistent goalie, but I mean, that's not a hard category to beat Kochekov in. And unfortunately, that's the only thing that holds Kochekov back from being a number one. And now one thing I do feel like I get right when it comes to goalies is I've always said the biggest thing that separates a starting goalie from a backup goalie is how often one goalie can win over the other. How often can you start games and win them? That's the biggest thing that separates the two, in my opinion. And Kochekov's just got that little bit of inconsistency and that crazy mental stuff in his game that if he sorts that out, he'll be fine. But this is a better situation to have where you have to rein somebody in than try to get more out of them. So that's the good news when it comes to Kochekov. But yeah, I mean, unless there's something significant coming back, including hopefully a goalie, at least a high-end prospect one that has a few years in, say, the A or NCAA or something, then I'm not for moving Kochekov from a logistical roster construction depth chart standpoint or from a standpoint of how high his ceiling may or may not be. So that's just me. I love Swayman and a Kane sweater. My wish list is Swayman Anderson tandem. Yeah, that could be good. Maybe PK and Knight tandem. I suppose. I don't know. Like I said, I'd have to outsource that question to somebody. All right, everybody. Well, I'm going to walk my dog. I'm going to get one more race in on NASCAR 25. As you can see, wait, let me go this way. That's my wheel and pedals setup that I've been using. So regular old Logitech G29 with the stand. I don't have the shifter yet. I just use the paddles right now, and I keep accidentally like wanting to press the clutch on this game, even though you don't have to, because on iRacing you had to press the clutch, and you have to, anyone who's ever driven a manual transmission before knows how it works and everything. But even on iRacing, like even if you were just using the paddle shifters, you had to lift and had the clutch disabled, you had to lift the gas pedal a little bit as if you were actually using a clutch. Whereas with the NASCAR game, you just can hit the paddles once it, gets to where it needs to on the rev limiter and everything like that, so you can shift. And I still keep lifting, and I lose time because it's a habit, but you can just sit there. And plus, it's a sequential transmission in the Cup cars, and I keep forgetting that they're a 5-speed as opposed to 4 now. Thank you, Bill France, and what's his name, Phelps, for ruining my third favorite sport. I will see you guys later.